Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Oh, my hair. I do.
Hi.
How are you, Jen?
Good. How are you, Ray?
I'm good. The rain stopped, so
Yeah.
I can get outside.
Yeah.
So you're available in the afternoons, eh?
Well, I mean, this is kind of my lunch break, so.
Well.
Yeah, but tonight I've got D&D. Tomorrow we're going to Maine for the rest of the week. So I'm free in the afternoon then.
Time. Did you say D&D?
Yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons.
You do? I know nothing about it, but you do, huh?
Oh, it's fun.
Where do you play that?
So actually, I'm in 2 campaigns at the moment. One, I play with a couple of theater friends that you know. We play every other Tuesday. And then one, I play with my husband and a bunch of our mutual friends. That's every other Monday. And we play online because those friends are in like Florida and Texas and New Orleans. And so that's the easiest way to play. So
the one that you play with the theater people, is that local?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that online as well?
Nope, we get together in person. Yeah.
Do. Is there a big difference between the in-person game and the online setup?
Yes. So in person, we roll real dice. Whereas online, we roll you click the button and the dice are rolled. And so I played the online game it's been over a year now. And the in-person one has only been for about 6 months. So I find myself forgetting which dice I'm supposed to roll. Because again, online, I just click the button and it does what I need for me. But in person, I'm like, oh, shoot, which one is this? So
do you prefer one over the other?
I don't know. In person is kind of cool, getting to just eat and drink and hang out. And I feel like you get off topic a lot more, but it's totally cool and fun. And you're just hanging out with your friends. Whereas online, when we get off topic, we get way off topic, but then trying to regroup is harder to do. So
how long is a normal game session? I know nothing about it, so forgive me, but.
Oh, totally fine. Yeah. So let's see. The Monday night games we play are normally 7:30 to 10. And then the Tuesday night games are normally 6:30 to 9:30, depending on, what's going on.
3.5 hours?
Yeah. And that's just one session, right? But it's multiple sessions to tell a story to get through an arc. So this theater one, like I said, we've been playing for about 6 months now. And we just finished our first arc a couple weeks ago. So we've now started on kind of the next chapter of the story. So.
Okay. So anybody who's listening, I'm deviating here because it interests me for a second. So I know nothing about it. So who develops the story arc? Who decides how long it's going to take to get through it? And how do you know when it's done?
Oh, okay. So you've got a DM, a dungeon master, right? Or some people call them GMs, game masters. And there are pre-built campaigns, pre-built stories that they can just use those to build the world, build the characters, build the creatures you're going to fight, the situations you get yourself in.
You buy those?
Yep, you can buy them.
Okay.
And then also, so that's one end of the spectrum. On the other end, you have DMs who just create their own because they've just played for so long. They know exactly what they want to do. They just create their own. The 2 campaigns that I was recently in with my husband, it was a little bit of a hybrid. So my husband, bought a campaign that he liked, but then he threw in his own flavor to accommodate the different players and our different characters and stuff. So that's kind of how they come up with the story. And as far as how do you know it's done, it's kind of like a well-written story, right? You've got your exposition and then you've got your plot and then you've got your big climax and then your denouement, right? Isn't that your ending? Yes. And you wrap things up and it's over. And either that ends a chapter and you keep going on, or it ends your campaign and then you create a whole new character and start a whole new storyline, whatever's going on.
It's a world I know nothing about.
Yeah.
I can hear people now. Oh, great. The old guy needs to learn to know how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Great. We wanted to hear this from him.
No, you should. It's so when I started playing, I was terrified because, as you know, Ray, as actors, we're given a script. But in D&D, when you play a character, you are not given a script. You have to improv everything and come up with all your characters' like backstory and how they're going to act and react and say. And improv is not my forte in any way, shape, or form. So I was very terrified the first few times that I played. But the more I played, the more used to it I got, the more comfortable I got. And it's just like a different form of acting is playing in a D&D game.
I know it's big. I just didn't know how big. You're the only person I know who's done it, so.
That's not true. They just haven't told you yet. But now when they hear this, they're going to all come out of the woodwork and be like, Ray, come join our campaign.
Yeah. I'll start getting all these little DMs and stuff. Are you in any shows right now?
Yeah. So I just finished the Garden Festival with Powerhouse Theater Collaborative this past weekend.
Got you.
And then I'm also rehearsing right now for Beauty and the Beast with Franklin Footlight Theater.
Ooh. How did the
so
garden one come across? Did that come okay?
Oh, they went great. So we had two shows. One was on Saturday, one was on Sunday. They both got moved inside because of the weather. June decided it was going to be 50 degrees and raining and windy instead of beautiful. But yeah, they were both really well attended. So many people came out Saturday. We're like, we hope people come out Sunday. And there was just as many, if not more people on Sunday.
Really?
Yeah. And all the shows were just so brilliantly written. They were great. They were all so well acted. The directors were great. Some of them super seasoned, some of them brand new. But like just sitting there watching all these local people and their talents, it was just so cool.
So a little bit of overlap to the 7-day play thing? They similar?
Yes, except the playwrights had a lot more time. So they were part of a playwriting workshop that Brian Halperin did this past fall. And so half of the shows were actually written to be performed over Zoom, which is still on my to-do list. I haven't watched the Zoom ones yet, but that link is available and you can watch those videos. And then the other half were written to be performed basically in a park, right, in a garden. And so I think the Zoom ones had their recordings done by April, but yeah, definitely a much longer process than the 7-day play festival.
For a longer period of time then, I assume?
Oh, yeah. I think our first rehearsal was in March, and we met about like every other week until like the, month of May. And then we were meeting once or twice a week until this past weekend. So
did the writers direct them as well, or did you have a separate director?
Separate director. Yeah.
All
and
right.
some writers went to all the rehearsals. Our writer, she wanted to be surprised. So she didn't come to any of the rehearsals. She waited until like the performance to see it. So
tight wire act.
Yeah. Luckily she loved it. So
yeah, you're not kidding. Anybody else in Beauty and the Beast that I know? Would I recognize anybody up there?
Gosh, you must. Do you know Asher Clark?
No.
Okay, you should. He's great. Olivia Martinson?
I believe I do know the name.
Okay, so
wasn't she in some of the Powerhouse stuff, right?
Yeah, she was in Christmas Carol this past winter with us.
Sorry, Olivia.
She's brilliant, Ray.
Oops.
You should come out and see her. She's great.
Guess I'll be editing that out.
Yeah. So she was one of the carolers in A Christmas Carol, and she's playing Belle, and she's just the perfect Belle you could ever imagine. She's awesome.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. When does that go up?
It goes up the middle of July. I'm like looking at my calendar over here on the side. When does that go up? So the weekend of the 15th, and it plays actually 2 weekends. So
where do they perform? I don't know anything about Franklin.
Yeah, so it's funny you should ask that. They perform at the Franklin Opera House, which is such a cool little old building. But after this show, the Opera House is actually closing down for about a year for some much needed renovations and refurbishments. So Franklin right now is looking at different things they can do in other places, maybe smaller things, to make sure the theater company stays together because they've been together a long time. They've got great people and doing great things while they're waiting for their, home performance space to just get that little refresh that it needs.
Yeah, I'm going to assume the Opera House is on the main street there that goes through coming from like Tilton into.
Yes, it is. So basically go to downtown Franklin just before you get out of downtown, before Cumbies. It's on the right-hand side just before the library. It's also their town hall. So if you've ever been in their town hall, the town hall shares the space with the Opera House.
Got you. So that's before you get to that bridge there, right?
Yes.
So, Jen.
Right.
Except for the few times we've actually bumped into each other on stage, I don't know a whole lot about you.
Okay.
So I like to fill in some of this. Part of the podcasts that I really like is this historical part where contemporaries can kind of find out about each other and where they come from, how they got where they are, and how they get the bug. So, are you a native to New England?
To New England, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How long have you been performing, and how did you get the bug?
Well, when I was little, I was in like the Christmas pageants at church. And that was like kind of fun, right? And then I think in elementary school, we all were in the play that the entire class had to be in. And I thought it was kind of fun. So I did a little bit in middle school, but then I remember going to see the musical that the high school did. And that musical was a high school and community musical. So it was high schoolers and little kids and adults. And the show they did was Godspell. I'd never seen the show before, never heard the music. And it was so much fun. And I remember thinking, I want to do that. And that's when I was in 8th grade. So then the next year when I got to the high school, I learned all about all the theater things they did. And I just did theater all throughout high school.
Great hook, Godspell. My God.
Yeah.
I loved Godspell. I seen that in Boston a couple of times years ago. But man, I love that.
I saw a phenomenal performance of it in New London. This had to have been like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, but it was just so good.
It just, the songs are just wonderful.
Yeah.
So you got going high schoolish after all that bug. Were there shows that you wanted to do, you haven't done yet, that you are hoping to do? And what until now has been one of the best shows, the best characters you've been able to attack?
So I'd say I'm starting to age out of my dream roles as a high schooler.
La.
Well, I'm getting a little too old to play Sandy in Grease there, Ray. Okay. Or to play Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. So as a kid, those were like my dream roles. That's what I wanted to do. But that's why I just dress up as Dorothy for Halloween now, and it's fine.
Me too.
Yeah. So like now I don't necessarily know that I have any bucket list roles that I really want to play. Mm-hmm. I just know, if I see multiple shows are going at the same time and I'm trying to determine what one will I audition for, part of it is, is this a show that makes sense for me and what I can do on stage? And part of it is just, does this sound like a show I want to spend 10 to 12 weeks working on? And so that's kind of what, for me, like kind of chooses what shows I want to do. And I don't really have a bucket list like many people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't actually have a home group, do you? Because I've been with you at the Winnie and we've been down at the Hatbox and you're over at Franklin. So are you comfortable? Would you prefer a home group or do you enjoy just going from group to group?
I like it both, which is really very contradictory, right? Mm-hmm. Franklin used to be my home group. I started there in 2007 and was with them strictly for like about 7 or 8 years. And then life happened and I had to take a break. And then these other opportunities at other playhouses opened up. I did a couple things at the Little Church Theater, which I think I just saw someone posting about the other day about how much they missed the Little Church Theater. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gone. I mean, well, it's not gone. It's an apartment or something, right? It's a condo.
Yeah. But so, and then that was kind of cool. And I met some new people and I thought, okay, this is not as scary. I can get out of my comfort zone. And then that's what brought me to the Winnie P. And then I did some stuff in Concord and that's how I got to work with Brian. So I'm doing a lot of stuff with Powerhouse now. Can't beat that 7-minute commute from my house to the theater.
I'll bet. I know.
Yeah.
Everything's a travel for me. Nothing's local, but
yeah.
I'm going to do.
Yeah.
When did Aaron contact you for the 7-day play?
Oh gosh, sometime in the fall, I think. Yeah, it had to have been sometime in the fall because it's been in the calendar for forever and a day that this is the week. This is nothing planned this week, Jen. This is what you're doing. So
yeah, real quickly, how do you think it went?
It was amazing. I really think it went so well. Getting to see all the shows, I was so impressed with the writing, with the scripts, with the acting and directing, and all that was able to be accomplished in that tiny little period, right? Like it looked like we'd been rehearsing for like, a couple months. And it looked like that those shows had been written and edited and, really truly finalized, not just 24 hours throwing it together. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, I think that's a real testimony. I'm glad you said that because I think it's a real testimony to the caliber that had been involved. I've said it to other people. It could have gone off tracks at a lot of spots along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I agree with you. I think to see what could be churned out in 7 days was just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm with you. A lot of it was polished. I mean, they didn't have big sets, thankfully, I think.
Can you imagine building a set?
No, I know. But, in this case, minimalism worked. And it was just, it allowed the audience, their imagination to float them out there, take in what was happening. And there were so many different types of things going on. It really, the ride, I think, for the audience was just amazing.
Yeah.
As we watched it backstage, I was captivated by it.
Yeah.
Your first day when we showed up for, well,
like orientation is what I call it.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't an audition. It wasn't. It was orientation, I guess. Walk me through those couple of hours because, you show up. Now, I didn't know who was going to be there. I really had no basic idea. And I had no idea how the writers were going to be handled. I had no idea how the props were going to be handled. What was happening in your mind as you walked in?
I was both incredibly excited and terrified at the same time because I didn't know what to expect, right? I didn't know, okay, how do the actors get assigned to the play? Or do we do a thing, or do they ask us to read something random so the writers know something? And I had no idea what to expect.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I hadn't thought of that. Now I'm scared.
God, I was like, oh my God, are they just we have to do cold reading? We have to perform. And that's why when we, did actually sit down, I was telling you guys, I'm like, I didn't know what to wear because I didn't know what we'd have to do. So yeah, but it was so cool because there were some people that I hadn't seen in a really long time, so getting to see them. There was people I'd never even met before, so getting to meet some new people. And then I was telling this to Mary, but I was so impressed with how organized Aaron was. Yeah. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and how to do it, and that was just super impressive. And then I loved how he used playing cards. Something about it, I'm like, I like it. That's a lot of fun. So
yeah, I'm with you. Were you surprised who you ended up with, both as a writer and as other cast members? Or were you looking around saying, I hope I get to go with them. I hope I get to go with them. What was going on in your mind there?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to get to, work with this person. I've never worked with them before. Or, oh, I've worked with this person in town. That would be so cool if I got to work with them again. So it really, it was a mixed bag in my head, right? To work with people I knew would be cool, but to work with new people would also be cool. So,
yeah. So the whole thing was kind of it was crazy on some levels because you have no idea who you're going to end up with. Mm-hmm. You don't even know how many people you're going to end up with. Mm-hmm. You could have been a solo for all I know.
Right.
There's no way to know. There's no scripts at this point. We all just kind of show up, and he begins this process of separating the writers, and then he does the playing card thing, and people start moving around and ending up with this literally random association of other actors. And then some crazy things happen, like the prop table opens up, and there's all these crazy items. I have no idea. I meant to ask Aaron how they even chose those. I don't know if he just went to his garage and just emptied out some trash can or
the Goodwill pile they had that they're like, we haven't had time to take it there yet. These are our props.
Yeah, exactly. See what these guys can do with it. And then the writers, this is an amazing part to me. They go back, they interview people, they know what their prop is, and they got to go leave and create something from nothing. Peter, in our case, asked some really interesting questions. I don't know if you regret answering any of them.
I don't, but and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I'm glad we were able to ask him afterwards, how did you come up with these ideas? And he's like, oh, when you said that, and you said that, and you said that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yes. He nailed us. I was he put the blame back on us. I'm all this time blaming him for having this crazy dream, this LSD trip that we're about to go perform.
Yeah, and it was all our fault.
Yeah. He literally said, well, you said, and you said, who would have thunk? Now, I don't know if the other actors actually, I should have asked some of the other ones if that happened in their case as well. But Peter was very specific. I mean, and the funny thing about him was, he leaves us and he's like upbeat, and he's got all these. He seems smiling. He's got all these, and then he
so
hands
happy.
off.
We were laughing, joking. It was such a great, joyful time. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a great comedy. Like that's like, I didn't say the word comedy, but that's what I'm thinking. Like, after I left, and then
you get to read the script.
Yeah. And I got it just before I was heading off to a rehearsal. So I didn't get to really sit down and digest it. It was just a real quick, see what you're doing to get ready for tomorrow. And I was like, God, I should have just waited. I got to go to rehearsal. I can't digest this. This is very unexpected.
A little bit deeper than what I was expecting,
Yeah.
Bless his heart, though. I mean, the thing I liked about it, and I'm not saying this is not a negative for any other group. I don't think it is. Was that he really challenged us as actors. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I looked at that, I thought, where do we even go with this? How is this even? It's just, there were so many, I know I'm on a podcast and I'm not speaking here, but my mind is spinning. There were so many things that were not typical that I'm wondering, wait, how does that work? What does that mean? How are we going to pull that off? Like the birth, and the depression and the circle. Oh my God. So I don't know. Oh, thank God we have Brian. I mean, I think a couple of other people could have pulled it off, maybe Kelsey, but thank God we have Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember, again, I just real quick read through it. I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't understand that. Oh my God, am I dumb? What are they going to say tomorrow when I show up to rehearsal? And I have no idea what the play is about.
And then you find out you're playing some forest fairy cat thing that I'm like, where did that come from? Well, what in the world is this supposed to represent?
Yeah.
But it all worked.
Yeah.
He saw that in his mind. And by the grace of God, he had the courage to hand that off and say, well, I think they can do it.
Yeah. He really trusted us with this very different idea to be able to give it life to his vision. And
yeah, I mean, for people who haven't seen it or didn't see it, I shouldn't say haven't seen it, but didn't. It was a very ethereal, representational kind of a play that it was like theater of the soul. Theater, it was something you would not see in a normal theater presentation because it was just, I don't want to say out there, but it made you think. It made you, as an audience member, have to pay attention.
Yep.
And some of the other ones, which were wonderful. I loved every show that went up.
Yeah.
But they're very lighthearted. The comedies were the comedies. The one that Ian had to do, the freaking monologue with the, where he was the alien space that was, God bless him, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
He had a pile full there. But it was just a real work. I mean, I was glad to be, maybe that's why I really was glad to do it after I was done, because it made us work. So many times you get a light roll and you kind of walk through it and,
Yeah. But
when I read Peter's, actually, I was a little bit nervous too. And even with Brian, I thought, how do you stage this? It was not easy. There's a hat.
You give birth to the hat, and then the hat's the baby, and then a toy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a dancing fox on stage. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So when you saw your character, did you have any reservations did you do any research? I had no idea what the name meant, first of all.
No. So, and again, because I read it real quick and I was off to a rehearsal. So it wasn't until we sat down Monday that I'm like, I should Google if Kumalisa is a real thing or not. It's the first chance I actually had to do any kind of research at all.
And here's my ignorance. I thought he made it up. I thought
I did too. And it never really crossed my mind, Jen, you should Google this, until we got to rehearsal. And then I was like, ooh, maybe this is a real thing and I should kind of know what the heck I'm doing out there. So
yeah. Did you have any kind of qualms about what was going to be involved for you? I mean, as we went on, at first, I'm not so sure how much of the little dancing, huffing kind of stuff. I know he put that in there specifically for you, but were you at all hesitant about how that would look or how it would feel, or, what did it actually work? Were you in any way hesitant? Or
I wouldn't necessarily say, I'm saying this hesitantly. I wouldn't say hesitant. I would say scared, because when Brian found out he was directing us, he sent me a message saying, looks like we're working together again. Looks like you're going to have to write a song. And at this point, I hadn't read the script yet. And I was like, I have to write a song? Does he know I don't write music? So like, I'm terrified. And then I get to read the script. I'm like, okay, I don't have to like write a song and write like sheet music and everyone has to learn it. I'm like, oh, it's just this little thing that I have to sing. So that's when I just, did some research to find an existing tune that I could just make my own, that wouldn't be recognizable to people. So I'd say that was probably the thing, again, that didn't make me hesitate going, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I was still very excited, but that scared me the most, having to come up with a tune.
And then Deirdre had to copy it, right? She had to
and so and then I had to choreograph to it. So I'm like, this has got to be the first thing that I do, so that I can teach it to Deirdre and so I can choreograph to it. And then I was like, and then I can try to learn my lines.
In 5 days.
Yeah.
All that had to happen.
Yeah.
And then the 6th day, God created we had tech. So it went incredibly well. The rehearsals, in my opinion, I was so happy to be with you and Deirdre and Brian because it made it so comfortable because there were, you just don't know what's going to work. It's not a proven thing.
Right.
It's never been done and performed before because he had just written it. And I was so happy. I mean that I was so happy, nervous, but happy. The whole way I was nervous about how the audience would take this because it was just a real trip to be able to, for the audience, I'm sure, to see this esoteric, kind of trippish thing that was taking place. And so I was very glad you guys were there because I thought, well, I'm not going down by myself. My reputation won't be too bad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I had said earlier that it would have been cool to work with a bunch of new people with this particular script and the challenge that it was. I was really glad, that I did know you. So I felt comfortable working with you. I'd literally just gotten off a show with Brian, and Deirdre is the first time I met her. And I feel like I've already known her for like 20 years. Like she's just so sweet and welcoming and easy to talk to. And even Sandra just jumping right in and helping us out and keeping us on track. Like I felt very comfortable that whole week, which I think when you're putting something together this quickly and something that is as emotional and, can open up a lot of feelings for you as this show was, I think that really was just so, I was very blessed with the group that I got to work with on this show.
Yeah, kudos to Aaron in choosing these actors. Because if it were just random or if somebody had said, I'd like to be in something, and having never done anything, oh my God, it would have been painful, to watch. But it was the strength of the actors taking over the strength of the writers that really put it all together, I think, and made it very cohesive. When you were on stage, and you were on stage almost through the whole thing, right? Did you ever leave? You never leave,
briefly, right? When I batted the balloon off.
Oh, yeah.
And I always took an extra second at rehearsal and definitely 2 extra seconds during the performance. Okay, breathe, Jen. And then I went back out. Yeah.
So you got chance because you didn't have a lot to say. You were pretty much an observer. You probably more than Deirdre or I really got chance to probably, I'm guessing, hear or see the audience and their reaction to a lot of it. What, in your opinion, was happening? Could you get a sense? Could you feel what was the audience, how they were being attracted or not to what was happening?
So the only sense that I got was just that they were involved, right? Like I didn't sense that they were bored or like confused. I got the sense that they were involved. And I was like really excited afterwards to like talk to people that I knew, like, how did you interpret that? What did you think about that? But yeah, that made me feel good and gave me more confidence knowing, okay, they're not out there restless. I don't hear a lot of shifting around and whatnot. They were paying attention.
They were paying attention.
Yeah, which is very cool.
I don't want to say they were riveted, but there wasn't a whole lot of movement. I'm with you. They were not shuffling.
Yeah.
And again, Peter, thank you. Because that piece needed to be in that theater.
Oh, yeah.
I could not imagine that on a proscenium theater stage, and that that made it even more riveting because they were like right there, right face to face with the actors through that whole, all those little speeches and stuff that went on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were hoping, I think that some of your friends or family or someone you were speaking to them afterwards, what was their reception to it? How did they feel about the show?
So one of my friends that I spoke with, she said that she bawled her eyes out.
Oh.
And she's like, this was so beautiful. And I absolutely loved it. And I just thought that was incredibly cool. And then I was like, I'm so sorry you cried. She's like, no, it was like a great cathartic, wonderful moment. And, you know, someone else that I spoke with really kind of got the story, you know, the things that we had been speaking about all week with Brian and interpreting it, you know, they kind of got that, okay, Kumalisa was just trying to figure out how do people keep going? And this was her watching this couple to see, okay, in this specific situation, how do they keep going? So they kind of got that as well, which I thought was really cool. So,
yeah, you know, if people don't know, but we were still peeling back layers of that thing as the week went on. And discovering some stuff towards the end that were like, oh, oh, yeah, that should be in there. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's very good that they got a lot of that stuff. The other performances, you got to see them, I assume, on the monitor back there. Were you watching those?
Yeah.
What did you think of those shows?
Oh, I loved them. They were great. Like what you said, some of them obviously more lighthearted than ours. So that was kind of like a nice palate cleanser.
You think?
I wish I could have been in the audience to see the teddy bear fight. Like I could see it on the monitor, but I wish I could have been like up close just to see him fighting with the teddy bear and throwing the cigarettes around and the actress when she would just pick up and carry around the teddy bear. It was great.
It was wonderful to watch it. I'm sure they started with that one. Yeah.
And then with the, and of course I forget the names, which is awful, but the alien robot one, which is what I refer to in my head.
Yeah.
I thought that one was just so cool. Very touching, made you think, had these small little moments of humor in it as well. I loved the concept. I thought it was very cool. And it was one of those, I wish I could have seen the actors' faces right in the monitor. They're just like little blurs up there. I'm like, I want to see, you know, what these people are doing right now. I want to see what their faces are doing. Cause I bet that was just added that extra layer to it that the audience got that I didn't get. So
that one caught me off guard. I knew that Gary had written that and I was not expecting it. I just always picture Gary Locke as this gregarious, you know, kind of out there, but well, it was out there. I wasn't expecting it. It was, it was, and much more somber than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was the final comedy written by Carrie L.
Yeah. Was not expecting that from Carrie L.
That girl.
But, and so I've worked with Ryan a lot. I know him from Franklin, and I've done a lot with Ryan. And that was the perfect role for him. And Carrie L knows him too. So I'm sure she was like, oh yeah, I know what Ryan can do. And like, good Lord, it was hilarious.
It was
hilarious. So funny. So funny.
And, you know, there's just enough secret in there, you know, for the audience to catch on and take the ride that wave that it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Kudos, Carrie L. Kudos.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So overall, did you do the feedback to Aaron?
I did. Yeah.
You did. Have you heard anything about it? I haven't heard anything on any of the feedback. Have you?
No, I haven't heard anything at all.
Are there things that you wish you either had more time to have done or would have changed? Or, I mean, you were in the play you were in, you didn't have much choice there, but watching them, were you like, dang. Rather than be a fox dancing on a stage, I would have liked to have been carrying that teddy bear, you know. Anything going on there?
I mean, no, because Peter wrote the show for us. And, you know, if I was in a different show, that show would have been different than the shows that we saw, right? That's any type of show you see, the same show, but with different actors in it. It's always different. Obviously, like more rehearsal time would have been better. Maybe I wouldn't have been so terrified at the performance, but I think it's perfect the way it is, because if you had more, it's like, then it kind of loses, you know, the 7-day play festival and the excitement and the whirlwind that those 7 days are. So honestly, I don't think I would change anything.
I did talk to one or two of the people who were like, they would rehearse after us. And that time slot for them got to be a bit much because they were always getting home late.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if Aaron has thought about that or what came up in the feedback, but maybe if they could rotate those a bit so that people weren't always.
Right. You could share who gets home late or whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably the only thing. 7 days I was hitting my limit. I mean, we're used to like 8 weeks, 12 weeks, but.
Sure. But it's only like 2 to 3 days. And then, yeah. It was basically a production week, except you literally put together the whole production instead of preparing for 8 weeks and then getting to a production week.
Yeah. It was just jammed into this 1 week.
Yeah.
And it was plenty. I mean, it was on the top. It was plenty for me. Would you ever want to have written or directed now that you're looking at how it went?
I mean, well, no, I cannot write to save my soul, right? I need someone to give me the script. So no writing, off the table for this girl. I mean, I think directing would be cool. I've directed before and have fun. I don't know if that would be more or less stressful, right? Because I'm always stressed directing. And I was actually chatting with someone this weekend over the garden plays about when you're the director and then you sit in the audience and watch the show, I always get so incredibly nervous, much more nervous than I normally am on the stage. The 7-day play festival may have been the exception, but because it's like, I have no control. If something happens, something goes wrong, something, whatever, it's all up to them, right? Whereas when I'm an actor, if something goes wrong, I've got a way to fix it normally. Yeah. I think that's what makes me so nervous as a director. So I don't know. Maybe I just want the terrible fear of being an actor instead of a director.
I used to have a friend who directed a lot of our shows in college, and he would never watch them. He paced back and forth the whole show, never looking, pacing. He'd listen to the audience, but he would never watch. He couldn't watch. He couldn't stand it. I guess that's because they hand it off to people like me, and they're like,
I mean, really, Ray? If I was directing you, I would also be pacing.
So what are you doing next? You got Beauty and the Beast, but your calendar seems to fill up. You tend to stay, if I remember our conversation before, you were staying pretty busy. Is that something you're looking forward to doing again? Or did you now adapt it to the break, the big break?
Yeah. So pre-COVID, yes, I think was always doing like 2, 3, 4 shows at a time and never had a break in between. And then COVID was just a very long break, but it did kind of teach me like, I like having free time. I like seeing my husband more than once a month.
He'll be glad to hear that.
Yeah, he'll appreciate that. And so I really, since then, have been conscious of trying to only do one show at a time, or if they overlap, not overlap too long. And of course, this spring was the exception because I was in Secret Garden, and then I had the Garden Park Festival I was working on, and then the 7-day festival right smack dab in the middle, and then Beauty and the Beast was right smack dab at the end of all of that. So
old habits.
Yeah, they die hard. I am now grateful I'm now down to just one. It's just Beauty and the Beast now. Last night I got out of work and I was like, I have nowhere to be. This is so wonderful. I ate dinner at home. It was wonderful. So maybe once in a blue moon, a special occasion, I'll do multiple shows, but I do kind of like, taking a break in between and getting some of that time to myself.
Is there anything you're eyeing? I know that, a lot of these groups start posting auditions, months before a show. Is there anything out there that you are kind of get on the horizon after Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah. So I was going to audition for Fiddler at Winnie P, but I'm away the weekend it goes up. So It's kind of hard to be in a show if you're not there.
It is.
So I'm looking at possibly auditioning for Quilters, which is what Powerhouse is doing in the fall. Yeah. And that will be performed in the Belknap Mill. And I haven't performed in the mill yet, except, for the Inside the Park Festival yesterday. But so that would be kind of cool. Yeah. I've got the script. I'm reading it now just to kind of see, what is this show about? I'm working on finding the music to listen to. So
it's a musical?
It is a musical. Yep.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Has that been around for a while? I never heard of it until I saw it on their website the other day.
I think, I don't know, since the 90s, maybe? Really? I'm just guessing. I have no idea. It's not like a super popular one that's, done all the time. It's like a very niche thing, but.
Getting back just for a second to the 7-day plays. If you were to talk to somebody who's thinking of maybe doing it next year, and it's, you're not maybe, what kind of advice would you give somebody if they're like, well, what do you think, Jen? Should I, shouldn't I?
Yes, you absolutely should.
And why?
It pushed me as an actress, right? not only just, you have to memorize the lines, but, put together a show in really, I know it's called the 7-day play festival, but it's really 5 days, right? Because you got 5 days of rehearsal.
Yeah.
And then you got to be performance ready to tech it and then perform it. So it was just such a cool experience. And like the energy that was around it, like some people I didn't interact with at all because they rehearsed in the other room at other times, but just you could feel the excitement and the energy around the whole week. And that was just very, very cool. So I would say recommendation number 1, do it. Recommendation number 2, make sure your calendar is cleared. Like you got nothing going on that week, even during the day when you're not rehearsing, do what you can so that you can feel good and ready.
Yeah. You're one of the first people who I've spoken to about it, who brought up that point about the energy of the week. And I think I didn't pay much attention to it, but it was definitely noticeable. I don't know why I never picked up on it, as a tangible thing, but I agree with you. I think the sense of immediacy or urgency added with the adrenaline, just really did have this sort of buzz about it that as it pushed you forward. I mean, there was no slacking. There was no time you could not be aware of what was coming up because that clock was ticking.
Yeah.
And it just pushed you forward.
Yep.
And each rehearsal had to be the best it could be at that point because there was no going back. You didn't have like 8 weeks to sit on this thing. Right. So I agree with you. It's an interesting observation that there was that electricity about it for that week. And I think it did make a huge difference. I think it brought up the game of a lot of people.
Yeah. And it was just so cool too, because again, the only people I really interacted with until the day of the show was just you guys in our own little bubble, because then we were leaving because another group had to come in and they had to take advantage of every moment they had to rehearse, right?
Yeah.
But when we were there, the last tech was done. We were all just chilling, eating pizza, chatting, getting ready. Everyone was just so supportive, like throughout the entire day, and all like the silent cheers we weren't heard from backstage. We're just like, it was just so cool to see just all that love and support from people that some people I'd never even met until that day.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It was very cool.
It was like a competition, but not a competition.
Yeah.
Because again, which is a great observation, we did not see a lot of these people until that day. And we knew they were doing something. Mm-hmm. We didn't know what they were doing. And sometimes I didn't read any of the scripts ahead of time.
No.
I didn't want to know. And so I had that excitement for them about their show that I could see. And so it was this, again, I'm going to use this term, contemporaries. It's this group of contemporaries who got together to do this thing. And it was so great to see them showcase their abilities. And that goes for every director, every writer, the sound, the light, they just pulled it off. And it was a wonderful event to see what could happen when this beautiful, small people who love their craft get together and decide to do that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just, it was so cool. Cause you're right. Like, because it wasn't a competition, but we were all in the same boat and our shows were vastly different, but we're all doing the same thing. Everyone was just loving everything and supporting everything and just cheering you on. And that was very cool. Yeah.
And it's opposed to, let's tie it to a sport where every show was different rather than every show be the same with different people trying to do a different take on it. Rather than everybody, it's a home run derby or, it's something that everybody can participate. This was what made it the competition that was not a competition. It was so great to see these other people putting on these wonderful little shows that didn't in any way infringe upon our show.
Yep.
And they really were showcasing these excellent little talents, these little vignettes that were taking place. It was, I just loved it. Aaron, I loved it, buddy. Nice job. So.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you. It was awesome.
All right. Well, I've used up your lunchtime.
That's okay. I already ate anyway, so we're fine.
Anything that you would like to address? Anything that, since I've got you, that you'd like to tell anybody theater-wise?
Is this too depressing that like that show will never happen again?
I have thought of that.
Like I was thinking, like, especially like, because after the performance, I felt like it went well, but I was like, Jen, you could have done so much better. I was just like absolutely terrified, but I was like, there's no second show where you can make those improvements, or there's no, we can see this again next year and see how it looks. It's And that's the case for all of them. And it doesn't mean they won't, I don't know, maybe come out in some play festival somewhere at some point in time, but but that was it.
Yeah, there's something too final about one and done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had thought about that because after we had done it, I really almost wish there had been more to it. Not only that it could be performed again, but it was this little egg that needed to give birth, that needed to open up and be fleshed out a little bit more,
And give birth to a hat.
That's right. But I think each of them could have been. I mean, there's sometimes you watch Saturday Night Live and they do their skits and really they don't know how to get out of them. And the ending is agonizing because they don't know how to stop. And I guess some of them could have been that way, like, Ryan and Amy's show.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Carrie-O. That has forever marred me. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if those could be, but that was like a honeymooner skit. That family, Amy and Ryan, could be put into more scenarios like TV, sitcoms.
Absolutely.
And I could see that one episode be in this thing, that goes very badly for the couple. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got.
All right. Well, thanks, Ray. This was so much fun.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad you agreed to do it.
Yeah.
I love these perspectives and everybody has that little bit of nugget that comes out that refreshes it. So I was so glad that you did it with me. I really am.
I know. It was so cool.
It was cool. It really was. All right. And there you go. Another great one in the tank. That one's going off to the memorial. Have a great day.